Hello, I'm Christine and I have cancer. Feels a bit like we need a Cancer Anonymous meeting or something to be saying that. But in any case, here we are. This is my first video, and the reason I'm making it is because, well, partially I guess it feels a little bit therapeutic for me to share this story, and I genuinely hope that it might help someone get a diagnosis a lot earlier than I did. The problem with being someone like me is that if you are a 34-year-old woman, you're very unlikely to have doctors look at you and go like, yeah, those symptoms, that might be cancer. Let's get you some tests. That's not what happens. And it's not what happened to me. And it's why I was walking around with this for so long that now we are at the level of, it's spread, it's metastasized. And so now it's much more difficult to treat. But first, let me tell you about how I got diagnosed, because this might actually be useful. So I'm one of those people who's always been super careful. I've always done like breast self-exams. I have done the pap smear every year, every few years, depending on where you live, they do it every 3 years or every year. Anyways, so I've done it as frequently as I was allowed. I've always had the doctor also, do the breast exam during my yearly checkup, and I did my own every month. I got tested for the BRCA gene because I have some breast cancer in my family, like not even really my mom's side, but that's how careful I was. Always thinking, you need to be on the lookout for that. But everyone always thinks breast cancer, pink ribbons everywhere. And it deserves attention. It is serious stuff. Of course it is. But it's arguably kind of an easier one to detect. It's something that women are made aware of. It's something that, hell, even men are made aware of now. And what's more difficult are the more hidden cancers that we don't really screen for. So I have esophageal cancer. It is a cancer that is on the end of my esophagus, the beginning of the stomach, and it extends into the stomach a bit, and then it has metastasized to the liver, lymph nodes, and the abdominal cavity. So here we are. And of course, the reason why it's this advanced is because it didn't get diagnosed early. And one of the reasons it didn't get diagnosed early is because I'm a 34-year-old woman. I presented with symptoms that were pain with swallowing. And so I went to the doctor, and they were like, oh, well, it's probably nothing. You may have nicked your esophagus with something sharp you ate or whatever, so let's do a barium swallow x-ray just to make sure there's nothing there. So I was like, okay, cool. So I go for the barium swallow. They give you this big cup of barium. It's a contrast fluid. You drink it at the time when they're doing the x-ray, and then they can see if there's anything kind of there obstructing your stomach or whatever. And so I did that. The test came back completely clean. There was nothing there. So great, and the doctor even said, well, the good news is there's no obstruction, so there's no growth, nothing, everything's fine. There was just a little bit of reflux on the end. I don't know what they mean with on the end, but in any case, I was like, well, I've never had symptoms of reflux. It seems rather odd, but maybe you can have a little bit and not notice it. So they're like, oh, we'll put you on Nexium and, go from there, see if it improves. And so I tried that for a little while. Didn't improve. Then the pain with the swelling went away, which was good. So I really thought, I probably just injured myself a bit, maybe drinking something too hot or eating something sharp or whatever, right? And maybe it got inflamed and now it's improving. And so it actually improved for a few weeks and I felt pretty much okay. And then it came back in a sense that it was difficult for me to swallow, physically difficult. I couldn't always get everything down. So it felt like it would get stuck, a bit like if you didn't chew your food right and as if it was a little bit too big, and you try to swallow and you have that kind of discomfort. That's what it felt like. So this went on for, a few days or on and off. I go back to the doctor and they're like, well, what's going on in your life, basically? They're like, what's going on? So I'm like, well, stuff, you always have work and family stuff and etc. And so they started digging in a little bit deeper. It came to the conclusion that my job was not the cause of stress. I had some family stress, as you normally always do. Had recently moved in with my partner, etc. And they're like, oh, that's what it is. You have anxiety. You have classic symptoms of anxiety. And I bought it. because I had been going through a few stressful months. There had been something that had been weighing on me very heavily, and I had trouble sleeping, and I thought, okay, yeah, sounds about right. Let's go with that. So it put me on Prozac. I don't like taking drugs in any case, and I think I know myself. After 34 years of introspection, I know myself pretty well, but I took the Prozac like a good girl, and, you know, didn't feel any better. If anything, everything just got worse progressively. And then they ran blood tests, and I did a test for like a bacterial infection, and on it went. And all of that came back negative. The blood work was good. And the last time at the doctor, I was like, could it be cancer? I actually said the words. I was like, could it be cancer? And he said, it's very unlikely. I don't think so. You're only 34 years old. You're a woman. For this to be cancer, you'd have to be over the age of 55, male, and have smoked for 20 years. So I was like, okay, great. I felt so much better. I was like, perfect. It's just something I got to deal with, but it's not cancer. Now, the tricky thing is he also based that on the barium swallow x-ray, which turns out is not the best diagnostic test for this, which now I know. And he's like, no, because the barium swallow also came back completely clear, so everything's fine. And on it went. So I was like, okay, great. So anyhow, after that last visit, within about a week and a half, about a week actually, I started to decline so quickly, I couldn't even keep liquids down anymore. So I had started to regurgitate food and noticed that if I tried to eat at first, the first few bites typically would just come back up, like I wouldn't be able to keep them down. But what's interesting is that it wasn't vomiting. It was like there was no stomach acid. It was just the food and mucus that would come back because it gets stuck there, it can't go anywhere, it's uncomfortable, so it kind of like, you know, you kind of want it out, so it can't go down, it'll come back up. Sorry for the gross stories there, but it's what happened. And when it got to the point I couldn't swallow liquids anymore, back to the doctor I go, and I'm like, hey, it's just, I mean, we're at a point of, you know, there's something really wrong. And that's when they sent me for an endoscope. And when I came to from the endoscope, the nurse said the doctor wanted to talk to me and a family member. And I was like, well, a family member isn't coming until like an hour and a half from now, so, you know, talk to me now, because otherwise I'm going to be sitting here fretting about it for an hour. So she comes and talks to me and tells me that the endoscope couldn't get into my stomach because that's how big of a mass they found at the end of my esophagus. She had to get a more experienced doctor to come and help her navigate it in. And I actually just started crying of relief at the time because I thought, oh, thank God, it's not anxiety, it's not between my ears, there's actually a physical thing we can deal with. So for a moment I was happy about it, but then of course you're not happy when you find out it's cancer and it's metastasized, trust me. Then suddenly you really wish it was anxiety. But yeah, so that was the first sort of big slap in the face. That was on a Friday afternoon, then you go home, you sit in a chair for the rest of the weekend hoping it's an infection or, you know, inflammation. But the thing is, I saw it in her eyes when she told me that there was a mass there and didn't look good. I knew it was bad. You can just tell, like, you know, she's like, there's always hope. I asked if it could be an infection. She's like, it could be. They took biopsies. And no, I mean, I knew that something was wrong. So on Tuesday, she called me personally and told me that, yes, it's cancer. And I had a complete, you know, kind of emotional meltdown. I was not in a good space. I hadn't been sleeping well. Things have been pretty rough anyways. And then you're not eating, you're not drinking properly. It really messes with your mind. Even at the best, even if you were well nourished, to get that kind of news is hard. If you're already on your sort of last legs, like I was running on fumes at this point, you don't take it very well. So basically I had to be carted off to the hospital in an ambulance. That resulted in nearly 3 weeks in the hospital where they gave me fluids and food and a feeding tube and a portacath for the chemo. So I have my portacath scar there. And I'm on chemotherapy now, which they've told me is sort of my only option, or currently only option, or best option, or whatever you want to call it. But the sort of second or third punch in the gut was when you get to the hospital thinking you have your CT scan, because first you're thinking, okay, it could be an inflammation, there's hope. then you're like, okay, it's cancer. It hasn't spread. I can get surgery. There's hope. And then you get your CT scan. It's like, it's spread. No surgery. No radiation therapy. Chemo becomes the only option, and then you got to hope that it works. And so what I found out much later is that for esophageal cancer, 60% of patients don't respond to chemo. So that's, that's another thing to worry about, I guess. But in any case, I'm on chemo now. And I still have my hair, and people say, oh, but you look so good. But it's like, yeah, but I'm not really wanting to take pictures or a video when I look really crappy. Like, yesterday I had my hair up in a bun. My hair was dirty because it was the last day of my chemo, and so I got onto chemo on Friday, got unhooked on Sunday. Basically, it's such a pain to shower when you're having chemo because you have all these band-aids and plasters all over you, and then you gotta cover it, and you walk around with this bottle, and it's like, I don't really want to take the bottle in the shower. I mean, you can, but it's not fun, so you just wash. Like, you don't wash your hair for a couple of days because who cares? And, yesterday and the day before, I was super tired. I was just like basically in bed the whole day. Didn't feel like doing anything. Didn't feel like I could do very much unless I really forced myself. And it's like, it's time to just let my body do its thing. It's working hard. Let it, enjoy all the good stuff the chemo's doing and just do nothing. But that's the thing, like, that's why I look good when people see me, because you're not going to see me if I'm not feeling up to it. But yeah, I have my hair because the chemo that I'm on is it's the type of chemo where you get thinning of your hair, but you may not lose all of it. And so I just pulled handfuls of it out when I was just in the shower. So it's definitely thinning, but thankfully I have a lot of it, it seems like, so I'm keeping some of it maybe. But yeah, keeping my hair is the last of my worries. I really don't mind. But typically what you see with people who lose their hair, they're on chemotherapy for, say, breast cancer. A lot of those drugs cause hair loss. But this one doesn't. Not a lot. Not as much, maybe, not as quickly. In any case, let's hope it works. And thank you for watching. Like I said, I wanted to do this video, and I want to possibly document this journey because I really hope it'll help someone else out there, and I hope someone else might get diagnosed sooner and have much better prospects. But there's, always hope. And in the meantime, maybe I'll find some support from others who are going through similar things. And if so, or even if not, I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, you might want to see more, subscribe, because that would be awesome. And I'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye.